behind texturizing. Now, just like in hair cutting, okay, texturizing applies the same rules about shape, about sectioning, and about elevation. All of those same rules apply here. Now, it's very important that you think about your haircutting theory and start getting those engines running, but we're gonna talk about the differences, right? In sometimes what you might have when it comes to texturizing versus just haircutting. So I'm going to take my model and show you what a vertical section is gonna do to texturizing, what a horizontal section, and what a diagonal section. So we'll start here with this vertical section right here. Now I'm using my scissors, and there are obviously different tools that you can use. You can use your texturizing scissors, you can use your razor, you can use a regular scissor, right? We have all of these different tools to choose from. Even different combs, using a wider tooth comb, because if you want kind of a looser tension on the hair, you can use the wide side of your comb, whereas typically when you're cutting with wet, you're using the finer teeth of the hair, right? And getting a lot of control. So what technique you use, we're gonna break that down in a minute, but let me show you what this vertical section does. Now, if I take larger chunks out of this hair, here vertically, say I'm gonna put my hand up and I go chunk, chunk, and I'm just going from short to long, and I'm just kind of giving it that like deep texture. Now, where are those points? You have these longer pieces here in the middle, and it's falling over the shorter pieces. So are you visually getting lots of texture on the top part of the hair? No, you're actually getting weightlessness, you're getting movement, you're getting an airiness within the haircut. So that would be a great way to remove weight without really removing visual length and without really showing the texture on the outside of the haircut. Now, if I take a horizontal section and I do the exact same technique, okay? So I take this horizontal section, I'm gonna move her this way so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Now, I'm holding my comb nice and far away, digging in with my scissors and just going from short to long, short to long, short to long, and you have those peaks and valleys. When I lift this up, right, you're gonna be able to see it. And when I drop that hair down, you're gonna see this shattered, kind of piecey, textured effect sitting on top of the haircut, right? So that's what your horizontal sectioning is going to do within your texturizing techniques. Now, when we're talking about diagonal forward and diagonal back, now in haircutting theory, think about exactly what that does, right? You're creating directional movement within the hair. So I'm gonna take this diagonal forward section and we'll just clip this away. And I'm gonna do the exact same. Now, trust me, we're gonna get into different types of texturizing here in a minute, but I really want you to understand what the sectioning and what it does and how it affects texture before we even get into some of the other things. Now, holding this straight out, going in with my scissor and really digging these big, big pieces of separation, creating space in between. So my cutting line is down here, but now you can even do like a shape within a shape. So now you have this short to long thing happening in a diagonal direction, and it's going to push those hairs. So now you have texture that has this purpose of pushing from short to long and actually supporting your haircut. And say you wanted a bob that was a little bit shorter to long, or you wanted a really square bob that actually hugged your client's head, pushed short to long, and functioned like a graduated bob. This is where it starts getting like, ooh, yes, like these are the things that kind of light me up when it comes to thinking deeper and getting more inspired by haircutting, is you're creating a shape within a shape, right? So we have this triangular shape living within this square shape. Cool. Now, same thing if I do a diagonal back, And say you were doing layers around, well, let's just go ahead and do it. If we're doing layers around the face and around the front of the face, but maybe we still wanted the lengths to look a certain way. And we're wanting the layers to push a certain way, we could go in, and whether we're directionally holding our scissors. Now, if we're holding our scissors, where are those short hairs pushing those long hairs? If I want to cut this way, I'm creating short to long on this piece of hair. If I'm cutting this way, I'm creating a short to long on this piece of hair. So now you have, not only are you cutting it diagonally to create this push forward, right? But you're creating also this like short to long where you can push this piece forward, push this piece back, push this piece forward, depending on where you position your scissors, right? So now I could come in and do my shape within a shape and have it push those hairs kind of forward this way. So we have this layering happening here, but then at the ends are still pushing forward, but we have this nice square effect happening. Cool, right? So that's just some of the basic kind of theory behind which sectioning pattern you want to pick up. Now I'm gonna grab my gal who has a little bit, let's see, we'll do my long haired gal and we'll talk about thinning shears for a minute. Now she's perfect because she's got multiple issues happening. And I'm not mad at it, you know, but she's got this like more square fringe with this kind of like feathering happening over top, this longer fringe on top. And I'm gonna just adjust that a little bit so you can really see there. And we're gonna do one side with our thinning shears and we're gonna do the other side with our scissors. Questions are welcomed, everybody. So please, if you have any questions, don't hold back, throw them in. Now, I'm gonna grab a couple different pairs of thinning shears. Now, if you love these, if you hate these, like a lot of people tend to have opinions on these. And I've even heard people say, oh, I had my hair like completely destroyed by thinning shears. I guarantee you it wasn't the thinning shears, it was probably the way they were being used, right? Because we could go in and just take a chunk right here, but what's gonna happen? Whatever percentage of hair that's being cut out by these thinning shears, different ones have 25%, 50%, 75% of the hair being cut out. So whatever percentage is being cut out, there's a line in there. There's a shape within the shape. So you always want to think about the line within the outer cutting line, right? So what are you creating inside the hair? Now, these two different shears, one of them has a flat blade here where you want to be very cautious about angling this blade as if you were angling your regular shear, you know, and then this one has double on both sides of those like wedges, right? I'm gonna use, this one's gonna be a little bit more aggressive. This one's gonna be slightly a bit softer, but they're both pretty aggressive as far as thinning shears go. And I'm going to actually get a nice blend in her bangs here, blend this side and blend through the ends. Now, I really want you guys, I'm gonna lift her up just a tiny bit more so we can make sure that we can all see. But I really want you guys to see the difference between the effect that my thinning shear gives versus my scissors. When I go in with my scissors, I'm gonna strengthen the ends and really like be like in your face with the texture. And then on this side, it's gonna have this like feathery softness, okay? So you are getting a different effect by not only the tools that you're using, but also the way that you're using them, right? Just fumbling about with my tools. All right, so now we're going to pick up kind of where we want to blend from this piece down through this piece. And I'm just gonna lift it up just the way I would cut it. Do you see that big disconnection right there between, you know, her bang and this section right here? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually come in and as if I'm point cutting, I'm just gonna point cut, and as I'm pulling out, I'm kind of like closing as I'm pulling out, right? So not only am I going in at a 90-degree angle, which is going to release more of the weight and less of the length, I'm also softly kind of doing this motion to kind of start to slowly get this soft blend through these little ends right here. So it is getting blended, it is getting softer, and the same thing that I would do through the ends here. Now, I'm gonna pull her back a little bit so you guys can really see this. I'm going to over direct this forward as if I'm cutting her layers. So I'm gonna bring it forward, over directing it all of the way forward, elevating up, and I want this to go short to long, okay? So I'm thinking about the length, but I'm also thinking about creating almost like new length, okay? So I'm bringing this all the way forward. Instagram, can you see? Awesome, cool. And I'm gonna cut, I'll bring her back just a bit, there we go. I'm gonna cut on the opposite side of my fingers, so I'm not cutting under my fingers, I'm cutting over my fingers here. Still feel like I can see this better. There we go. So I'm cutting right here, and I'm gonna go short to long, and I'm just gonna move, cutting short to long, short to long, short to long, as I kind of like gently move this hand. So I'm moving multiple things. It's definitely like patting your head and rubbing your stomach, where you're like this, 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 and then as many times as you open and close, then you're like really getting rid of length. Boom, 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 boom. So you're creating that soft effect, right? From short to long, but you're also kind of putting in a little bit of a layer too. But it's like that dreamy, feathery, soft effect. So then I can take my next section, incorporate it into my previous section, over directing it forward, and then just blending those two together. And coming in, and then you can do it this way, where you're just taking pieces and just chunking off the surface of it like this. And that's just going to give you a little bit more of like you're just really like focused on those areas. Whereas if you take the entire section and you work on the other side of your hands, you're kind of like going for it. And I like this. I don't always use it. I don't always use this technique because sometimes I feel like people want their ends to feel a little bit like stronger, a little bit heavier, and a little less thinned out, okay? So this is exactly what this will give you. I'll just comb it out for you so you can see the exact result. It's gonna give you this like almost effortless, like you can't really tell where the lines are, very blendy. This is great for like bobs and short hair cutting where you're cutting really blunt and then you have to like blend a lot of that away.
We have a question.
We have a question over here. Yes, sir.
Which brand scissor do you use?
I use so many brands of scissors. So which brand scissor do I use was the question. I use so many brands of scissors. I use my fancy scissors. I use my Mizutani scissors that I got at the Wella store. They're incredible. Actually, I have this little baby Mizutani that's my favorite right now. Boop, boop, boop. And wait a minute. I don't know if you get discounts on scissors, but I know that if you type in Brianna15 right now, you get discounts on like all my favorite care products and styling products. Needed to mention that. That goes for you too, Instagram. Go to the Wella store and type that in. Until Friday. I think it goes until Friday. But these are my Mizutanis, and they're tiny little babies, and I'm gonna show you how I use these in just a second. But yeah, my fancy scissors and then my arc scissors. So those are the three types that I kind of gravitate towards. Now let me grab... Now I'm gonna do something a little bit different, and I feel like this is a bit of a go-to move for me, is just texturizing with my scissor, making the ends feel like almost like in your face texture, right? Like it's like, this hair has texture, it's texturized, and it's like kind of almost what I feel like as an artist you can utilize to create your signature look where people are like, oh, that is her work, right? And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in, and it's because so much of it is instinctual. There's obviously all of the theory behind it, but I'm gonna go in and really like accentuate and use this little arc in my scissor to accentuate these peaks and valleys in a very kind of bold and intense way. So if you look, it's like 1, 2, 3 layers. You know, they always say 3 layers. 1, 2, 3 layers. And then when you drop it down, there's this like separation of 1, 2, 3. And if I want to separate even further, and this is why too, I don't always grab for my thinning shears, but they're great for when you need them, right? But I can come in from the opposite side because short hair pushes long hair. I can literally just come in from the opposite side and carve out this little wedge right here that's going to actually push this bang section forward towards her and give you this beautiful little like kick out or flip right here. I'm gonna throw in a little bit of this Ultimate Smooth. Boop, boop. Love this guy for kind of, it adds so much slip to your cut. So when I'm really detailing something out, I wanna see what the natural separation of the hair is, right? I wanna see how that hair moves and separates on its own. So I'm gonna use my Ultimate Smooth Miracle Hair Serum to help give me that slip of my scissors and also, you know, a little bit of separation so I can kind of style it as we go. Cool. So now I'm gonna come in through this side and I'm going to texturize it in 2 different ways.
You've got a couple questions real quick.
All right, let's hear those questions.
So question, do you prefer this technique on wet or dry hair?
That's a great question. So I will use this. The question was if I prefer this technique on wet or dry hair. And I would say that I prefer this technique on both for different reasons. So I definitely would do it on dry hair if you want to kind of visually see it like exactly where it lays. But I also will use this with my razor in a very similar fashion, just like what I'm doing right here. And for that, I like it to be a little bit damp and I kind of style it as the hair is drying. So see how I can immediately just go from short to long, one direction and then the other and create this beautiful little point of separation right there. And then I can kind of just take a vertical section, right? Bringing it straight down and going into my next one. Is there any more questions, Julian?
Yeah, so you're getting a lot of love and hellos.
Oh, I love all the love and hellos. Thank you, guys.
Nadia from Ottawa says she misses you.
Nadia from Ottawa. I miss you too, Nadia, and I miss Ottawa. Had such an incredible time in Canada. Thank you, guys. So I'm gonna just kind of, I'm opening and closing my shear and just gently removing and going according to this little curl pattern right here. I'm gonna lift her up even more, or like move her back a little more. There you go, cool. So as I'm working through, I'm really thinking about strengthening these ends, meaning like I'm coming to a very specific point and I'm not thinning the ends out. I'm actually creating more of like an obvious kind of strengthening, right? Because I'm not thinning. I'm being very intentional about, see these wispy ends? I'm looking at the wispy ends and I'm saying, no, we're going to be strong now, right? And I'm coming from both directions and strengthening those ends. So as I'm working through, not only are you changing the shape and you're creating tons of texture, but you're also kind of just shaping and strengthening the ends. And then I like to move the hair around a lot as I'm working, not her head. Behave, lady. But moving like the hair around a lot and tossing it and moving it. And this is kind of an organic way of putting texture in the hair as opposed to technical, where I start to think about how is she gonna wear her hair? What's it gonna look like? How's it gonna really fall? And then I can go in and see, you know what, the way this is falling, I'd like to add a few more pieces of texture in through here or in through there, right? And kind of organically grab and strengthen. Now, as I go through the front of her hair, so we saw how this was all like dreamy, and then this one's a little bit more like rounded. She's got texture, she's got, you know what I mean, like a style in there now, and the hair's pushing itself, and then this one's a little bit more like, dreamy and feathery. For her bang section, I think it'd be really cool to kind of go in and just blatantly show you what it looks like when you do a 90-degree, when you come in at a 90-degree angle, and then when you come in at a 45-degree angle, and the change that happens, right? So to be very intentional about going in at a 90 degrees, you're basically doing what a thinning shear does, because you're creating little tiny bits of separation, And however deep you go really matters as well. So if it's just in through the ends, you're just creating softness through the ends and you're not changing the length. Now, if I go in at a 45, taking a horizontal section, remember, you're gonna see that separation happen immediately. So I go in at a 45 and you're going to, boom, see these chunks coming straight out and you're going to see the texture coming out.
You got another question?
Ooh, another question.
Are you kind of slide cutting?
So when I was doing the layers, I was.
Repeat the question.
Am I kind of slide cutting was the question, sorry. I need to repeat these questions. So I was kind of slide cutting, but are you ever really slide cutting? Because you don't want that drag. You actually are always doing a bit of an open and close with your shear. Okay, so now I'm gonna go in and hold this vertically. So you can see that it's like lots of separation when you do the 45. It like makes these kind of chunks that stick out, right? But if I go in vertically and I'm doing a scooping motion, essentially that is cutting at like a 45, opening and closing. You can see how the shorter hairs underneath are very short, right? But then you can't see them because that long hair kind of veils over top, and that gives it softness and separation, okay? So that's kind of like a cool thing to know. So we're gonna move on from this girly. We're gonna go to the next, and we're gonna show some short hair. All right, now, texturizing with short hair, how beautiful is this? I use the Wella copper mask. That thing packs a punch, and I love it. It's like so vibrant and fun. Thanks for the love, I see the hearts, you guys are awesome. So yeah, if you guys want like a cut craft class and a kind of going to the basics, I know there's a huge giveaway happening right now on Well Education. It's like a post or two ago, and you just have to enter to win, and it's like $1,000 worth of goodies. Plus, you know, you get these Craft 1, Cut Craft 1, 2, and 3 for free. So had to mention that because that's near and dear to my heart. Where would we be without the foundations of hair cutting? Where would we be? Now I'm gonna go in with my baby shear, and I'm also gonna go in with my razor. So we're gonna do both, a bit of both, to kind of texturize a cut. Now this was cut with a razor, and we're gonna go in and add more texture to it, but we're also gonna go in and like refine it and define it, and what does that look like when we're doing that on a bob. And this is something that you guys are always doing in the salon. And my favorite tool for that, honestly, is either my baby shear. Sometimes I'll use the big fat shear like this one from Fancy. It's just huge and chunky and great for dry hair cutting. So it's like heavy and weighty, and it'll just go in and boom, 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 take out these deep kind of arcing pieces of separation. And then if I want to go in and be a lot more detail oriented, it's like quite literally the exact opposite. It's like the tiniest little shear with the pointiest little end. And I love using that one too. So I'm going to use the tiniest little shear with the pointiest little end to kind of show you. I feel like she could definitely go a bit higher. Give me 2 seconds. There we go. Just so you guys can really see. Now when you're working on a bob, I definitely suggest not only doing this, you know, with your doll head, but doing this in the chair. Sometimes I'll have my clients stand up and literally be this high up, because I feel like what it does is it puts me right at this vantage point of where her nape is. So right at this vantage point, I can see really close up and really detailed, have them put their head all the way down and see what's hanging out, what's hiding under there in this bob, right? So we're looking at, she's pretty beautiful, to be fair. but you can see that with my scissor, I can go in and kind of just carve in the same direction. Now, what did we say about hair cutting? Same rules apply, short to long. So I'm going to take a very loose, because I want to see how her natural hair falls, but I'm going to go from this direction, and then I'm going to go from this direction, coming in and really open, close, so that the hair pushes away from the center of her bob and towards the outsides. Any questions? Everybody's doing okay? So good to be here with you guys today. I love talking about hair.
You're getting a lot of people saying that this is super helpful.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad to hear that this is super helpful. I feel like definitely texturizing is one of those things that you can do like for an eternity and never stop, and then you're like have to be like at some point let your clients go, right? Because you can always be more perfect. Now I'm coming in and I'm controlling my scissor with this end of the blade. So I'm really adding a lot of control so I can go in very precisely with where I want the lengths to be. So I can go in really tight right here, and I can rotate my blade to take more of that length off, or I can kind of just come in a little bit deeper and more at an angle, and kind of just work my way around that nape area, just so that we get that buttery, beautiful, kind of soft effect. Anywhere I see this like visual right here, like having it, how it's like a little bit heavier right here, anywhere I see this, that's where I can come in and kind of do these carving pieces that is slide cutting, essentially, in the direction you want them to go. So you have this diagonal section, slide cutting from short to long towards the face to encourage that shape within the shape, right? Because you still have all of this hair that comes over top. So you really want to make sure that you don't have something that's like gumming up the works under there. It's really important. And the longer that you take at this particular moment in a haircut, your client is going to feel more loved by you. I'm not kidding. Like they're going to feel like, oh my gosh, their attention to detail was incredible. Now when I use my feather razor for a bob, and when I'm melting in a hairline for a bob, I'll typically kind of take a section and hold it horizontally, and I'll use the flat part of my blade, so this flat part right here, and I'll just hold it at a 45, and I'll skim across the top, but then let the ends out. So what I've done is I've created on the section of hair that I've held at a 45, and I've cut at a 45, skimming on the top of the hair, but leaving the bottom of that section out, another 45. So it's like 45 on top of 45 on top of a 45, right? You've skimmed off the tops of that section so that it lays a little bit flatter. I'll show you one more example right here where it's really obvious. So right here, pulling this out at a 45, and we're gonna kind of create that shape within a shape where I'm going with the flat of my blade, and I'm not gonna cut the whole thing. And I went at a 45 here, so you can see there's like a little bit of shorter hairs all the way to longer hairs, and it just sets that in so beautifully. This is why sometimes the razor can do things that scissors can't necessarily do, and we don't have to be afraid of the razor, okay? So now, also detailing with the razor, I'd love to show you the pixie, but we also have
just to reiterate, this will be saved on IG and the Wella store.
Yes, you guys, this live, you are in luck. It is going to be saved on Instagram, but it's also going to be saved on the Wella store. So you guys can go log in there and yeah, get your products with Brianna 15, right? Because why not? Oh my gosh, we're going to get them anyways. Might as well get a discount. I definitely know we're gonna save this. So it'll be living up there in the library for a while, and then also here, right? Sorry, I'm fumbling with this. There we go. Just wanna make sure that you guys can really get a good view. Okay, cool, we're good. Now, this is my beautiful pixie model. She is already very texturized, and I wanted to kind of show you what it looks like. You know what I mean? When you're doing these deeper kind of points within the texture, and then doing some kind of surfacey ones here around the face. My go-to for this, yes, I use the scissor, I use the razor. Sometimes I use the thinning shears, but I use every single tool, and I don't believe in discriminating against any tool, really. I feel like they all have a very unique purpose, and it usually lies in the amount of drag that they have. So the amount of drag that you have will give you a softer effect. And then something that's like an intense kind of cut will give you a stronger, more bold effect. Any more questions? Everything's good? Okay, cool. You guys doing okay? Like I said, I'm like obsessed with just hanging out with you guys and getting to talk hair and nerd out. That's why education is the best. Now I'm coming in with both sides of my blade. doing a little bit of a face frame to arc out these little beautiful details. And then, so sometimes if you come in with the nose, you can really carve deep into these like specific kind of points in the hair, right? And if you're coming in with the flat of the blade, just like we did on the nape of the bob, we can set this hairline. See how it kind of bumps up and off of her face a little bit? Like it kind of is like a little bit heavier than I would like. And to create a really feminine bob, we want it to hug her face. So we're coming in with the flat of the blade, but being very careful because you don't want to have it be gone. You want to be very strategic. So I'm coming in with the flat of the blade, melting it in, and then I'll move it to the nose of the blade to kind of detail out the very ends. And you just get this buttery, beautiful, kind of hugging, you know, like really tapered, really tailored personal look. And then I'll use my Ultimate Repair. This is the leave-in one, so you're not actually, it's not the spray I'll use kind of while I'm cutting a wet look, but I'll use this one, which is more of a cream base, as a styling product to just give me a little bit of like, I don't know, I just think healthy hair and natural hair just styles the best. It'll give you a little bit of separation, but it also has dual purposes in repairing the hair. So I'll use that one too. All right, now when I'm using my scissor on a short hair like this, I definitely kind of go in with my baby shear again, and I'm going to lift this section up. And because the hair is just so short, I'm going to kind of go in where it already is a little thinner and just accentuate those moments. Now, why can I do this? Why am I taking a section this way versus the other way on a short haircut? It's because essentially this is what reacts like a vertical section would, because it's falling forward. The direction that the hair is falling, you're not gonna see as much of the texture as you're gonna get airiness. If I take a section horizontally on a short haircut, then you're really going to see like the short to long, short to long, short to long, right? And now in through her bang section, that's where you kind of do want to see that short to long, short to long. So if you don't manipulate the hair and you don't pull the hair up and divide it vertically, or you don't like lift it and elevate it vertically, then you're just gonna, what you get is what you get, right? What you see is what you get. And you kind of go in and just carve around, because essentially that's your horizontal section, just laying nice and horizontally. Cool? So you create this airiness through the top that's gonna help you have that like movability and have your client just have this hair that just styles itself really. And then all of the texture that you're creating in the perimeter and in those horizontal sections is gonna give them that kind of funky, edgy pieces coming from everywhere feel, which both are good, you know? You can elevate a short haircut kind of with your comb and just utilizing your comb. And if you feel like at any point any of it feels or looks a little bit more dense, come in at a 90. Be careful of coming in at a full 45 when you're kind of going in during, like, because you created this beautiful round shape in a short haircut. So you don't want that necessarily to look as chunky as you do the perimeter and as you do kind of the tops and in the fringe. I feel like unless it's intentional, right? Unless it's intentional. Now I saved like this cool moment. This is kind of like an anti-texturizing talk here at the end. Because I still think that you can, and there's a million ways to cut hair, to cut curly hair, straight hair, any type of hair. But for her hair in particular, I feel like because we want it to be shorter, texturizing curly hair it is unique. Like you have to treat it differently, especially because she in particular wants a short haircut. Her hair wants to be out rather than laying down. It's laying down nicely right now, but she's gonna style it out and she's gonna have short hair. So I think it's really important for us to talk about this because there is a way to still create that like shape within a shape, okay? So let's do that. I'm gonna use my mama. It's Miracle, it's like such a long title. Ultimate Repair Miracle Hair Rescue Spray is probably my favorite product on the planet. I wouldn't say probably, I'd say definitely. But I'm using that especially on curls because it just makes it so lush, right? And repairs the hair. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna establish her lengths internally, and then I'm gonna go through and establish her lengths externally at 2 different lengths to create texture. Cool? So we'll go in with our shear, and I'm gonna use, you can use your shear to go in and actually just do like, hold it on the side and do a bit of a weave. If you don't feel confident with that, you can always go in and use like your comb, like a weaving comb, or one of these little like sectioning sticks. I use my sectioning sticks on the curls all the time. I don't have any extra ones right here, but so I'll just use a clip. But just taking boop, 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 little weaves and making sure that I leave out the perimeter right here and then around her fringe area for this part of this section, okay? I'm gonna draw my comb down and get it really nice and pretty. Now, this is not gonna be the lengths of her hair. This is actually going to be like the internal texture of her hair. So I can add tension and kind of cut it from one end to the other. I'm not dragging it all, and I'm not going really high up the hair shaft. I don't want it to look thin. I want it to just encourage the curl. So doing these little C shapes at the end is just going to make the curl kind of like attach, kind of go around itself and give it like a little bit of a shape right through here. And now the tension that you add with the curl is so crucial, because the more tension means the more bounce back you're gonna get. So you have to leave it much longer than what appears in your eye, but you know, thank God she wants it short. So now we've got these pieces and we're gonna let them bounce back completely, right? All the way. And now I'm gonna take the lengths of her hair and we're gonna create a little bit of a longer length, but not much. So there is a shape within a shape, but it's still like pretty close to the length, just a little bit longer than the previous length. And by taking these weaving sections, you're kind of intentionally weaving out like each individual curl, which is really cool because you can carve your way. So see how I can separate in my hands, and the oil will help you do that. As this bounces up, you can see that it really is close to the same lengths, and that you're just creating this roundness within this roundness, creating these like highs and lows throughout. And you can tell with how this is all sectioned out that you could do this all over the head with intention. And see how when I draw my fingers down, I can separate those curls and go straight in, giving each curl love. All right, we got any more questions, you guys? How are you feeling?
We have a question. Is that mannequin from Pivot Point?
This mannequin and all the mannequins are from Pivot Point. I really love Pivot Point. They're ethical, right? That's really important. And they're also just lovely. The hair is good and you can color it. It's 100% human hair. They have lots of curly options and they're just all around like a great company. So I only use them, to be fair. I'm gonna go in and use a little bit of actually the Ultimate Smooth Serum. I'm freaking out over this on curls. I was really nervous, I'm not gonna lie, to use this at first. I thought it was gonna be like insanely heavy. And then I got on stage and I was kind of like using it and like piecing these little curls out, and I had to like really expand her look and make it look really lush and have the curls like pop. Look at this. I don't know if you can see that, but like with the oil, you individually grab the little curl and boop. It's like, it just instantly goes there. And so I was like, this is it for forever. This is gonna be my new like go-to curly hair moment, literally for forever. Okay, cool. And there's one girl that I just feel like, Julian, if you don't mind grabbing for me, our first girl that we use, we're gonna just revisit her because she just needs cool bangs. And I think that what better way to kind of like wrap this up than actually doing something that you're gonna use like literally every day. I see your waves. Hi guys, it's good to see you. I've missed all of you. I love these lives. I love getting to see all these faces and all your tags. Hi, hi, hi. You guys are the best. All right, and I'm just gonna kind of get that oil, what's left over, into her bangs. And I've been like really experimenting with the oil because I felt like I needed to know it. I need to know you. Who are you? Because it's relatively new. And so I've been like greasing my hair up. There's a post about that on my feed just to see how far I can take it, you know? And it'll feel heavy at first sometimes, and then it'll just feel beautiful and feel separating, and it just feels really luxurious. Okay, so we're going into her bang.
Got one quick question.
One quick question.
What is the name of the spray that you use?
The name of the spray that I use, this guy. Oh, the long name? It's Ultimate Repair Miracle Hair Rescue Spray. Obsessed, like obsessed. All right, so we're coming in. Say you did this like really blunt fringe and you're like, okay, I want this to look cool. And I want this to have lots of separation, and I want this to kind of have like a bit of a, I don't know, just like a little bit more shape, a little bit more of a vibe. You can tell I already took a chunk out. So I'm going to take a little bit of a triangle section here. Yeah, we took that chunk out earlier when we were chatting earlier. Okay, I'm gonna take my shear and I'm gonna hold this little piece, this nice little triangle in the front, out at a 45-degree angle. So remember, when we elevate vertically and the hair lays vertically, you're going to have long hairs that fall over top. So we are gonna take this a little bit shorter, but we're also gonna take this, you know, we're gonna take a little bit shorter, but we're also leaving some of the lengths through the top. So open, close, open, close, open, close. You can see the negative effect of what that hair does right there. So you can see those like short to longs, and you can see the cutting angle, which we took. And when we comb this down, all those little short bitty babies, now we did take the length a little shorter, right? And we also have like the most beautiful beginnings of like a bang that we can kind of work off of from this shortest center piece, okay? So now we're gonna go in and take a diagonal here and bring this straight down so that we can see exactly how to connect this through. And same on this end, straight down. So you can see how it already is overlapping that short little baby. So this is gonna be our guide to connect from here to here, and using all texturizing, right? We're gonna come in and I'm just loosely holding it on my hand, and I'm going to come in at a 45-degree angle to remove length and weight. Now I even do this, this part right here on the perimeter of the bottom of the hair to get like texture, but also a little bit of bluntness, right? So right there you can see. So this I would do like when you're actually cutting off length through the perimeter. Oh, sweetheart. Oh, sweetheart. And then I kick my client. I mean, I love it. I love a doll head moment, an awkward doll head moment. All right, it wouldn't be real without one. Okay, so now actually I'm gonna stand on this side so you guys can see better. There we go. I don't wanna cover your. And then coming in, how are you guys doing? You doing good still?
45 minutes.
All right, we're coming in at a 45-degree angle and just finishing up. Are there any last questions as we finish this beautiful bang section, this little baby bang, for the end of our texturizing seminar? Anything at all. I'm here for absolutely everything. Now you guys can really see her. So you can see kind of what that created, and even having those short hairs in the center kind of supporting the look of the long hairs falling over top kind of gives it this bit of support all the way throughout, and a really great softness in kind of the heaviest area of the bang. Because you know, a bang section is typically a triangle, so your heaviest section is always going to be right in the middle. Cool.
You Getting no more questions, just a lot of love.
Oh, so much love. I love you guys. You're the best. This is the best community on the planet, is the hairdresser community. My husband even says, oh, like as a musician, sometimes I'm jealous of the community that you guys have as hairdressers because they're all so rad.
You got
it's
one,
like the coolest.
one concern.
I love it.
Someone said cutting a fringe makes them very nervous.
Yeah.
If she wanted to give a little inspiration or tip on that, that would be great with bang cutting.
Cutting a fringe, if you feel very nervous to cut a fringe, like our beautiful gal, I would say the tip on that is control, control, control. It is no different. Like, see, just moving slowly through it, methodically, and allowing your scissor angle, your cutting angle, to be exactly what you're envisioning the hair to be. It's not about what you cut off. It's about what you leave on the head, right? That matters. So really allowing yourself the time to finesse and go through it, and don't rush it, and don't feel that those nerves from your client. Don't feel those nerves like coming from anybody else, and just give yourself the space and time to love it into the shape that you want to love it into. And drop it. If you feel like you did something, you're like, oh, drop it, move it around, look at it, assess it again, and then do it again. So it's just like, it's like giving yourself the room to be the artist and to create in a way that you feel comfortable creating, and try not to think so hard about what your client's thinking, right? Also, when I'm cutting a fringe, it's really important for me to make sure that that's kind of the first thing that I do in the haircut, is I cut the fringe, and I let them just sit and stare at it and get used to it the whole time, and also come back to styling it, throw a little clip in to train it going forward if it's having a hard time, you know what I mean? And then cut the rest of your hair.